Okay, I'm recording, so I can use that. Huh?
So sorry.
So, from the sidewalk in front of the federal courthouse on New Bern Avenue on the east side of Raleigh at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this on the road is the Triangle Talk Show. I think that's enough time. And this is episode 51, Politics. If it's Tuesday. If it's Tuesday. Who are you? Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. First of all, that's rude. Reporter boy. That's not very nice. And second of all, I'm going to call an audible and change some things around a little bit here. Okay, this is Anchor Boy here in the studio. Reporter boy. You did good. Yesterday, first of all, it's not Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday. That's when I recorded that stuff at Tuesday with Tillis. And I did that interview. That's with Elena Ceberio. And I did that interview toward the end. I thought I would put it up at the beginning, but then I decided to change things around a little bit and show you what the Tuesday with Tillis thing was like. We'll hear some speeches. We'll hear some people talking. Hear some music, and then we'll get to our interview with Elena. So, Tuesday with Tillis. I've heard about it, quite a bit. It's like, yeah, there we go.
That it be made public. This is also special.
I heard about it quite a bit. I've heard it on the news. Heard people talk about it. I guess not personally. I don't think I knew anybody that went personally. But I knew it existed. I knew they've been doing this thing for a long time. A bunch of protesters in front of the courthouse on New Bern Avenue, just east of Raleigh. And I thought, well, why don't I go? By the way, I'm Gary Pierce. I'm the antique activist wannabe. Compared to these folks, definitely a wannabe. So I thought I would go and see what it's all about. And kind of the last minute, I decided to take the cameras and record a little bit about what's going on and do an interview. And I discovered that they get started right on time. I was there just a couple minutes early, but it took a while to get things set up. So first I set up the sort of the B camera, the background camera. That's what you're looking at now over my shoulder if you're watching the video. A group of maybe 25, 30 people standing in front of the courthouse. And then they said it was going to be a press conference. I think I was the only press there. A bunch of people were sort of live Facebooking it. But I'm the only one that had like real professional stuff. So recording this, and there you can see me getting the other camera set up. And I'm going to run around and get the microphone in front of this guy who's talking. He's Faisal Khan. And he's talking about the demand to have the Muller report released to the public. So let's listen to him.
Legal obligation to give them in full details of Mr. Mueller's report. 9 out of 10 Americans say that the report must be made public.
Yes.
We, the people, believe that the report must be shared with Congress and, by extension, the public with no or minimal detractions.
Right.
United States, is a nation that takes the rule of law very seriously. It specifically refers that laws are upheld in the society, including the government officials. The Mueller inquiry is no less important. It is incumbent upon the people in charge of delivering it to make sure that the entire findings are presented to American public. This is just not another criminal investigation. Mueller's inquiry is the investigation. This is the real emergency. And it is the responsibility of our lawmakers, including the Justice Department, that the public findings of the Mueller inquiry and report is made public. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Susanna Haley from LawWorks, North Carolina. Come over a little bit.
All right, thank you all for being here today. We're happy to be here with Tuesdays with Tillis. Congratulations on your 110th week here. That is no small feat, so I want you guys to give yourself a round of applause. Absolutely. We are here today to talk about Robert Mueller's report. The special counsel has been working for nearly 2 years on his investigation. We, as American taxpayers, are paying for this investigation, and we deserve to see it through to the final report.
Yes, we do.
Congress needs to protect Robert Mueller and ensure that that report is made public. And they've done so. Senators Grassley and Senators Blumenthal have worked together in a bipartisan effort, and they're sponsoring a bill that would make sure the special counsel's findings are made public for everyone to read. This bipartisan bill guarantees that President Trump cannot launch a cover-up, and it will make sure that the significant details of the investigations can't be swept under the rug, and that those implicated in the special counsel's investigation must be held accountable. Senator Tillis has gone on record multiple times before to support Robert Mueller. He said recently that he thinks that much of the report should be made public. So we're here today to ask Senator Tillis to be good to his word, to follow through with this. We believe that he wants to do well. So do that for his constituents, for all Americans, and for all North Carolinians to be able to see the results of this report. We want him to know that William Barr, the new Attorney General, refused to commit in the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting. Senator Tillis knows that. He serves on that committee, and he needs to protect us. We all deserve to see it. And as Faisal said, nearly 90% of Americans, including 82% of Republicans, want to see this report made public. This is not a hard ask for Senator Tillis, and we want to encourage him to sponsor this legislation. We want to encourage him to encourage Senator Burr to sponsor this legislation. It's important for North Carolina, and we want to ask him to protect us. We want him to protect Mueller and make sure that those report findings are made public for all to see, to follow the precedents of the Starr investigation, and to make sure that every single person in this country is able to look at the facts and come to their own conclusions. Yes. Thank you.
We're going to get a legal perspective, but I wonder if we want to hear from the raging grannies next. We would never have made it through 110 weeks without the raging grannies.
Once old King George ruled us from England and thought he could tax all our tea. But the people said, "You're not our boss man," and they dumped his tea into the sea. Now you think that you're still the boss man, and you think you're above the law. But this is no reality TV show, and you can't shout you're fired no more. We'll resist with all our might. The power belongs to the people, we cry. We'll spell it out for you now. DEMOCRACY. We won't let you stifle our freedoms or ban refugees coming here. And we won't let you meddle with Mueller. It's the people that you ought to fear. We won't let you stop Mueller from prying into all of your previous crimes. For the truth will come out now or later, and your lying won't save you this time. But we'll resist with all our might. The power belongs to the people, we cry. We'll spell it out for you now. DEMOCRACY.
MacArthur Award. Yes.
Thank you so much. And Jane Watson is not only such an expert in so many things, but she's also a lawyer. And so when we talk about the law, we need experts on the law. So thank you so much.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not sure that there are experts
Mic check.
Well, you asked the question, why should we be asking for the report to be public? I think that's what you asked, wasn't it, Karen? Why should we ask for it to be public? Well, fundamentally, how does the Constitution start? This is government by the people.
By the people.
For the people. Okay. And essentially, I think, in my opinion, is that in this particular case, what's really going to make as much difference as anything else is exactly what we're doing here.
Okay.
Because the people who are going to have the most impact on this is just my prediction, is going to be the Congress, because that's who speaks for us. And that is who we have control over. The Congress, the House, every 2 years. And that was an intentional part, was to make them immediately the closest and very often responsive to our demands. The Senate initially was not elected by popular vote. So that's a new thing in our country, relatively speaking. But they too are now by popular vote. So don't diminish for a minute the importance of this, because there isn't a lot of precedent on what should happen with this report, because the law for the special counsel and the report that is to be made is new and hasn't been tested before. Now, there is law that would be relevant, that is law without respect to this particular statute, that will be applied from Nixon and other similar situations in the past. So, I am going to tell you some news that you probably don't want to hear. Aside from that, and this is going to be based on what the opinions of commentators, knowledgeable commentators think we might expect to see happen. But let's look at what the facts are. They've been stated very nicely by the previous speakers. We have a minority president.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have a minority president who is an unindicted co-conspirator.
Yes.
We have a president who, how many was it that you stated? Is it 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 or 20 people who were his supporters that we know have been involved with foreign entities? Manafort, I mean, maybe since he was 18, has been involved in nasty foreign affairs. So, there's good reason for the people to uprise and demand it. However, there are a lot of murky issues. What we know is there will be a report, but it probably won't be seen by the public in its totality. And there are good reasons for that in terms of prosecution and so forth. The status of affairs could be very different. We don't know. Maybe, in fact, the president isn't complicit in any way, or wasn't involved in a way for which he could be held criminally responsible. And let's forget the issue of whether we can indict him or not aside. that still means that there would be, now we're talking about that thing that we complained about Comey doing. If we're going to, if he's not done anything that is considered an indictable offense, but we spew forth all of the bad stuff about him that's in the Mueller report, we're basically back to the issue that we complained about with Comey and the Clinton email investigation. There are other reasons in terms of other investigations and other indictable offenses by people we don't even know about that might still be under investigation. Some investigations may take years and years and years to. So there is legitimately going to be material in the report that the public won't see for good reason. There will be a report that will go to now Barr rather than Rosenstein. And it will probably be made public. But again, this statute has never been ruled on. There's no interpretation of it by any court. There are regulations that the Department of Justice has operated on for years that are their regulations. They are not statutory law. They are their internal protocol or regulations, which could be interpreted in one way or the other by the Attorney General or by the department. And so that's why we don't really know exactly what form this report is going to take. And the reason why it's so important for you to continue doing what you're doing.
Tell us.
And just keep on it. Don't stop. I was just telling someone earlier.
Why? What's the reason?
Because justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes.
And because of delay, I just love this commentator recently who was complaining about the fact, look, these things were known about Manafort. Why didn't anyone say anything? Why was he on television without being, pummeled, essentially, by the press? It was known what his background was. He's been at this since the Reagan administration.
Yes, that's right.
So, there was a commentator recently that said, what is this about normalcy? Is it that we think that because no one is saying that something bad happened, that we just kind of accept it? And she said, as a result of this delay, we cannot dawdle. And so you need to stay on them, and you need to ask them to be speedy, and do not allow them to delay. Because what we have, as she said, we now have a Russian asset as the President of the United States, backed up by a transnational criminal syndicate masquerading as a government.
Will you say that one more time?
Let's street mic that.
Say that one more time.
Let us street mic that. Now we have a president who is a Russian asset. Backed up by a transnational crime syndicate. Masquerading as a government. Of the people. By the people. For the people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm recording, so I can use that.
So sorry.
So, wait a minute. The heck? My system is out of my control once again. Started to play the opening. I'm going to turn that off. So that is what it's like if you go to a Tuesdays at Tillis, Tuesdays with Tillis. Some of the some of the banners they have are the preferred. Wait a minute, Jane. Stop this crazy thing. My name. The preferred situation will be Tuesdays Without Tillis. Tom Tillis is the junior senator from North Carolina. He tries to take some centrist positions, but not really. I think he's pretty solidly Republican, not 100% in Trump's camp. I think he's one of those that would be very much not in Trump's camp if he thought he could get away with it, if he thought that he could be reelected. He will be up for election in the 2020, the next election. That's his term. So that is, at least that's what it was like yesterday. I understand that sometimes you get a lot more people. Sometimes they'll have less, only a handful. It would probably be cool if every Tuesday there were 1,000 people out there on that sidewalk. That might make more of an impression. In fact, I talk about making an impression with the person that I interviewed, Elena Ceberio. Play that in just a second. Elena's pretty far off to the left, so we talked about a lot of things in terms of how to make an impression, how to express your politics, what's going to work, what's not. I guess it's the idea frequently discussed of principles versus practicality. So that'll be part of the discussion. It's kind of wide-ranging. It'll take 20 minutes or so. So let me do that rude introduction again, and we'll do the interview with Elena. So let's see. I got this. Here we go. Who are you?
Elena Ceberio.
You got a position or anything I can put on the camera on the bottom of that screen?
I'm part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
Okay. And what are we doing here?
Letting Senator Tillis know we will not be stopped. We will be heard. We are his constituents. We vote. We have a voice. We have been ignored, and it's gone on too long.
Okay, so when I titled the program, If It's Tuesday, what would that suggest to you?
Tuesdays with Tillis
that's what I was trying to get.
Tuesdays with Tillis has been going on for 110 weeks.
Right here.
Right here.
Right where we're standing.
Right where we're standing. It has been led by fearless women. One of them, Randa McNamara. The other is Karen Ziegler. And there was a third woman that started this with them, Nancy Jacobs. And these women just have been out here. Sometimes it's been 4 people. Sometimes it's been 200 people.
I think it's going to get noisy in a minute.
It is. And
so
we want our voices heard.
Let's calibrate a little bit.
Okay.
The audience that could be watching this could be very involved people. Mm-hmm. I call myself the antique activist wannabe because I'm almost 70, and this is the first year I've done anything activist-like, and I do it as a podcast. The audience out there, who knows what they think? They could be like, I don't want any more politics. It's way too early. The election's 2 years away. Or they could be activists like you, or somewhere in between. So I don't know how to calibrate a conversation like this. It's really going to get noisy, isn't it?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I've got them on the camera.
This is...
If you were talking to somebody who is... This is going to be hard. We may have to wait a moment.
Okay. You tell me. You give me the signal.
I hate to love.
You're fine.
This is fine. This is what it's all about.
Love, not hate, makes America great. You want to sing the Hang Down Your Head, Tom Tillis?
We're going to be serenaded now.
Okay. Jonathan, you want to sing this little line of mine and start out this segment? All right.
This is real life.
That's kind of scary. Turn around.
Yeah.
Turn around.
Where have you been?
You missed it. He was putting on his ankle holster. That guy getting into the car.
Okay, so this is going to keep on going.
Okay.
Well, I think the protest is going to keep on going. I don't know how noisy they'll be.
It'll be held.
So if we were talking to somebody who thinks I don't care that much, I care a little bit, I don't care that much, how would you approach them?
You have to care a lot. This is the life, not only your life, but the children that are ahead of us that will just be saddled with all of this horrible, horrible ignoring. You can't not get involved. You can't not make a phone call. You can't not write a letter. You can't not get in the streets. I have not always been in the streets. I have, in the past 3 years, came to the streets. I was an activist, always have been an activist, but not in the streets like I am now. This cannot go.
What made the difference for you?
North Carolina passed a hate bill called HB2, better known as the bathroom bill. And I couldn't imagine that the legislators were doing this to fellow human beings.
So that was your tipping point?
That was my tipping point.
But that wasn't all there was?
No, that's not all there was.
That's just where you said, whoa.
All politics are local. The North Carolina General Assembly is, and has been now ruled in the courts, an unconstitutional, gerrymandered body that is unconstitutional. Therefore, any of the laws that they have put in place in the last 6 years, shouldn't be abided by. They should be wiped out and thrown out. I believe.
Do you think that'll actually happen?
I do not. I'm that much of a realist. I do not. But I do believe that we are making progress. Slowly, we are making progress.
Okay.
Again, going back to my all politics are local, I am not focused all that much on the White House. I'm focused on Jones Street. And with what happened in the 9th District here, with the gerrymandering and then the lying and the cheating and all in the name of God, because Mark Harris is a minister, these poor people have no idea of what they are. They're lemmings, and they don't know what they don't know. But this should have them open their eyes and see that this is all a house of cards, and unless you get involved, you're complicit. Say nothing. Say nothing is horrible.
You can point your finger and wag at them.
Say nothing is just as guilty as being out there committing these crimes.
We hope it doesn't happen.
So going to vote every 2 years, not enough.
Not enough. Not enough. Make your voice heard by your elected officials.
We're in a metropolitan area of about 1.5 million people, and there's, maybe about 30 here?
This is a really, really small group. But this is not the only group. North Carolina has an amazing Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. We had 150 people over 6 weeks call to action.
And we had the Women's March with a couple thousand, the HK&J with a couple thousand. That's still a drop of the bucket.
Not if you're local. If you maintain all politics are local and groups going down to the General Assembly. I'm at the General Assembly quite a bit.
Okay, so
you have to be involved. If you are not involved, you have no right to complain.
I would say that any one individual's participation is amplified in the eyes of the people that you're trying to protest to.
Definitely, power in numbers.
You represent far more than that one person that's standing.
Correct.
So if somebody wants to come do this, and thinks it's just one more person, but what could that possibly do? It's more than one person?
It's definitely more than one person, because we are a network of activists. We are a network of people. You know what? Forget the activists. We are a network of people that care about the future, care about the children and the grandchildren that are inheriting this mess. If you don't want to do it for you, do it for the kids.
All right. What's the deal with Tillis?
Oh my God.
He's just the focus point, the rally point?
This is the federal building. What more do you need to say? This, what it stands for is empire, and what they're trying to do to us. This is what needs to be revamped and changed and altered.
Okay, so the federal building goes a little beyond local.
I'm sorry?
The federal building takes us beyond local.
Correct.
Our senators are local.
Yes.
Tillis is local-ish.
Ish, because he was the president of the... Yes.
But he's our representation in Washington.
Correct.
Which I assume you're not a big fan of either at this point.
I'm not.
Are you a fan? I want to see how far your activism goes. Are you opposed to federal government in general, or just this one?
Just this one.
Okay, so the last one, not so bad?
It has been bad for 200 years. Not all people are equal. And until all people are equal, and until that government comes in, that would be nirvana. Will that happen in my lifetime? It won't. But I'm here to move the needle as far as I can.
So federal government in general is culpable. It's a problem.
Yes.
And
so for systemic racism, systemic poverty, until we change those policies, and that's why I fight.
Okay. Listen to the music for a second, because it's pretty noisy.
Everywhere I go, I don't let it shine.
Can you get this on? Our letter to Senator
Where's
Tillis?
Cliff?
Every week, right here. Every week we do a letter to Senator Tillis, and this is this week's letter.
Dear Senator Tillis, we read with interest this morning your editorial in the Washington Post about how you intend to vote against the President's declaration of a national emergency. You forgot the biggest reason, which is this: there is no emergency. As you know, 58 former U.S. government officials who have held the highest security clearances under presidents of both parties have released a letter detailing their opposition to this declaration. They point out that illegal border crossings are at a near 40-year low, and that there is no emergency at the southern border related to violent crime, human trafficking, or drug trafficking. They go on to say that humanitarian concerns will be exacerbated by the president's declaration, which undermines national security and foreign policy interest. You wrote in a letter regarding recent ICE raids in North Carolina, quote, "Unfortunately, I have not been privy to any additional information specific to these individuals' circumstances other than what has been reported by news outlets," unquote. This is incredibly disingenuous, since we are talking about people in your state who, according to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, are entitled to equal protection under the law. You have continued to support the very policies that have led to targeting and terrorizing entire communities of your neighbors. We want this to stop. Surely, you can see that in countless ways, this president is endangering not only the rule of law within your state, but also the national security of the United States. He believes the leader of a hostile foreign power instead of the overwhelming conclusions of his own intelligence agencies. He may very well have been put in power by the same hostile foreign power. We strongly urge you to have the courage to demand that the investigation into the 2016 election be made public. We need to know the truth.
Elena, we moved a little bit.
Yep.
The demonstration closed in around us. So you've described that it's a wide range of issues and that people need to be involved.
Yeah.
Even though you know not very many people are actually going to be involved.
I don't know that. I don't know
Okay, let me
that.
challenge you on that. Tell me about it.
Okay. For example, Poor People's Campaign, National Call for Moral Revival. 41 states. Over, I believe, I'm not going to quote a number, thousands were engaged in civil disobedience over the 40 days of direct action all across the country. There's going to now be a poverty tour. If we can curtail systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, there is the moral narrative from hate to love, inclusion. This world would be a better place. And I believe that there are more and more people engaged every day.
I agree it would be. And perhaps there are more people engaged every day. Mm-hmm. Our voter turnouts are pretty pathetic.
because the push has not been there. And that's one of the challenges that we need to make for 2020.
Okay.
Look how many more people, new Congress people, women, people of color, look how many have been emboldened to run and take the risk. That's facts.
2018 was pretty awesome.
Yes. And I'm hoping 2020
will be even more.
Correct.
Yep. Do you affiliate with one political party?
I'm an independent, have been for 41 years.
Do you lean one way or the other? For example, is the Democratic Party too conservative for you?
Yes. 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 And the Republican Party, I'm not going to disparage, because it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's right and wrong. Democrats have been wrong. Republicans have been wrong.
Has one been more wrong than the other?
History will tell that tale.
I mean, as we watch that broad arc of justice slowly bend, with you pulling on it as hard as you can, do you see one party or the other doing a better job of supporting you?
No.
You are definitely going to disappoint a lot of Democrats. Republicans are saying, screw you.
That's true. The Democrats need to move out of the safe zone and really come and listen and hear and love again. They do. It can't be a tit for tat. It can't be this, gerrymandering was done by both sides. The Republicans only took it to a new, stealthier, higher plane.
Yeah, they learned how really well.
They learned their lessons from the Democrats.
They used computers.
So
Democrats used abacuses.
Right. Brilliant. If I were forced, of course I would say a more progressive Democrat. But what we have now, this mindset of compromise, well, we can't get it through, so let's not even try. No good. No good. Take a stand. Make a difference.
Taking a stand doesn't guarantee getting it through.
That's true. But 2020 will certainly prove a better option for that.
So, best case scenario 2020.
Yep.
We end up with it's going to be Democratic Congress.
Correct.
Democrat president. And with filibusters and things, you still can't move things through unless you've got enough Democrats in the Senate.
Right.
So maybe we do, best case scenario, maybe we do. And then we start working on policies.
Right.
Pushing them through like crazy. Oh, wait. We had that in 2008.
Yeah.
We didn't push things through like crazy.
No, we didn't, because, again, the old guard is all about compromise. And the current Democratic Party that's in D.C. is Republican light, let's be honest.
So Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chuck Schumer.
Yep. Oh, for sure, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer should be running for the president of Israel instead of being in the U.S.
And now we've lost people who don't even know who those people are.
Well, sorry for them that they don't. They ought to.
Yeah.
Again, for your kids and your grandkids. This isn't for us. This isn't for people our age. This is for the future.
All right. I keep getting stuck at the idea that if the Democratic Party is pulled as far left as you would like it to be,
yes,
it's not going to win any elections.
That's it. That mindset is one of compromise. It has to move left.
Well, I mean, argue to me. Tell me.
If we don't move left, we'll never have a living wage. We'll never have equality for all. We'll never end the hate. We have to move left.
Single-payer health care.
Single-payer health care. I have a $27,000 deductible.
Yeah. Higher education available to everybody.
Yes.
Green New Deal.
Yes.
But if we don't elect Democrats, as much as you might not think Democrats are the be-all, end-all, they're the only ones who are going to do it.
That's
true.
The
Republicans are never going to do it,
true.
And the third party is never going to do it.
I'm hoping the third party will do it in my lifetime. It'll be at the end of my lifetime, but I'm hoping it will be.
It could happen.
Could happen. I have to live in hope. If
Both of us come from an era where we thought as young people maybe it could happen in our lifetime.
Right.
Hasn't happened yet.
No. But I have to live in this state of hope, because if not, then I become an angry Republican.
So as you live in that hope,
yes,
you still have to do something today.
Yes.
You got to pick somebody to vote for.
Yes.
You got to pick somebody to support in the primary.
Correct.
And then decide if you want to vote for a Democrat or an independent who may be a spoiler in the general. How do you decide?
I will do my research. I will bore down and I will do my research.
Yeah. So if you were pretty much solid Democrat, I'd ask you to look across the current field and assess it. But you're going to toss them all under the bus right now.
Right now, I'm tossing everybody into the hat. Into a hat. And then I will pick out one at a time and do my research, and then make a decision.
Okay, I'm looking to see if there's a Bernie sticker or a Bernie button here.
There is
No
not.
Bernie button. Would you have a Bernie button?
Not right now. I won't. I won't have any button right now. I'm fighting.
So you want to wait and see?
Yeah.
Because they just did a show with strong Bernie supporters, and while they may look across the field and say, yeah, there's some other folks that we could get behind, but Bernie was there first, so he's our guy, at least for now.
Nope. I'm going to look at voting records. I'm going to look at what is in their heart. I'm going to look at not just rhetoric, fact. You have to be unemotional when you're in that voting booth. You have to be cold and calculated. You have to look at the facts.
How do you do your homework?
Oh, I have various resources.
Well, we want to help the people out there.
Go to a college campus, talk to the kids, read your history, the real history.
Kids don't know anything.
Kids know a lot more. The kids are wise. They are wise.
Okay.
Yeah. Know your history.
So put together a little focus group of college students?
College students, 30-somethings, millennials. Yes. Do your homework. Read history, real history, not what's taught in the schools. Do an REI training, Racial Equity Institute training.
Where do you get that? I mean, it's going to be online, but online is big, so where do you go?
I believe it's rei.com.
Okay.
They are offered, classes are
I think
offered.
that's going to get us to an outdoor equipment store.
A Racial Equity Institute. Do that training. Learn our real history.
What do they teach?
They teach the true history of our nation and how it was built on the backs of slaves, and how we are still enslaving people by having having ALEC write our laws and having a prison industrial complex, and how it is not fair just because you're born in a brown skin. It's just not fair.
Okay. As you look across this group of people that are here, do you know very many of these folks?
Yes.
And
my father was an undocumented immigrant to this country. I'm first generation here. I know it well.
So you're an anchor baby.
Sure am.
A proud anchor baby.
I wouldn't say I was an anchor baby. My mom was an American citizen, but
Okay.
I come from a long line of immigrants. And unless you're a native person, so do you.
All right. So if I were to grab a few more of these reluctant people, you're very brave, and ask them these questions, would I get a variety of opinion, or are the folks here at Tuesdays Wtih Tillis very like-minded? Because I can't go talk to them all.
I won't speak for anyone else. I don't think that's fair.
Right. I understand. And that's good not to do. But I'm having spoken to them, do you find, are there arguments? Are there general agreement? Are there specific points no one can get together on?
Oh, I think generally these folk are people with good hearts and have a strong integrity in caring for our country and the future of our country.
Okay. There's some Democrats over there?
Oh, I'm sure. No, I'm very sure. They're
got me
diehard
where I was trying
Democrats.
to go.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate talking to you.
You're so
This
welcome.
has been an enlightening education for me. You're going to be back next Tuesday?
Oh, yeah.
You here like every Tuesday?
I have been for the majority of Tuesdays.
Okay. Tillis his term is up in 2020.
Correct.
Okay. Who's?
There's somebody in my back pocket that I'll be working on her campaign once she announces.
Do you want to say yet?
I do not. It's not my place to say.
Okay, can't announce for someone else yet.
I cannot.
But it's going to be an interesting campaign.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Do we campaign too long?
Yes.
All this way too long?
Yes,
way too much money?
way too much. It's disgraceful with the amount of money that's spent just on local campaigns.
Yeah.
How many people we can feed, how many homeless we can shelter with the money that is spent. The amount of poor white people in this nation actually is higher than the amount of poor people of color. But yet we vilify the people of color.
We overwhelm them in the population in general.
That's true.
But you're not saying pay attention only to the white people.
No. But we vilify the people of color.
Yeah.
Where we could help all people with the amount of money that's spent on campaigns. It's disgusting, it's sinful, it's disgraceful.
Sometimes I get to the best questions after I think I've wrapped up the interview. You watch TV ever?
Yes.
Do you watch campaign commercials on TV?
Nope.
You see them?
I have a DVR and I normally don't watch live TV.
So I am afraid that because a tremendous amount of money is spent.
Yes.
And I think I've seen the statistic that over 80% of it goes to WRAL, WTVD, for TV commercials, that they're effective.
Scary, isn't it?
Well, I'm terrified, and I want your opinion. I guess
I'm equally terrified.
Yeah. Why do people pay attention to
hate?
Anything that they see in a political ad?
Because it's salacious, and that's what we've become, a nation of salacious people that like reality TV and horror shows, and you don't look away from the accident. That's why.
Okay. So don't pay any attention to...
No, do your research. Know your heart, know your statistics. Go in educated. Don't be a lemming. Don't be a lemming.
We have divided media on cable, MSNBC, Fox. Do you watch any of that stuff?
I try not to, because both sides, extremes are bad, period.
Well, MSNBC would be the left
yes, and Fox
extreme,
would be.
But I got a feeling that they are not as far left as you are.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have individual commentators, so some are at different spots. I only watch Rachel Maddow and a little bit of the next guy that comes on. Rachel seems to try to walk a center of the left line. Mm-hmm. Do you ever watch her?
I don't. My husband does.
Okay. He likes her, or just
he does.
Watches her to get mad?
No, he does.
Okay.
He does.
So I don't think she always gives me the whole story.
Exactly.
But I think she tells the story better than anybody else. And what I like is that she doesn't have 6 people in little TV boxes screaming at each other.
That's true, the squawk box. Yes, you're right.
And she seems to have a calibrated, moderate conversation. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Not moderate, politically moderate, and no one's yelling.
Right.
They're just talking. Kind of like this.
Yes.
All right. Again, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate you taking some time and being brave enough to come talk to me. All these chickens over here.
Nah.
So you do it. You do it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
They're busy folk.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I think we'll go back to the studio.
I think we will. Anybody else got anything to say back there?
I actually pushed record. Good job.
Yeah. Good job, Gary. All right. Thank you, Elena. Appreciate that. What I was saying was that I asked when I got there, I didn't know anybody, asked when I got there if anybody wanted to talk to me and do an interview, and they all pointed at her. That happens a lot. They didn't know me. They knew I had a microphone and a camera. Get a little bit better known. I gave out my business card, so maybe a bunch of people are watching this show for the first time. I should have explained up at the beginning what the Triangle Talks. I should always explain what the show is. That's typical show protocol. At the beginning of the show, you say a little bit about what it's all about. I never do that. I'm a bad host. So Elena was the brave person willing to talk to me, and good conversation. I appreciate her point of view. I don't share it
not as far left as she might be. But I certainly appreciate it, and I'm happy to have her and the rest of the folks on. What I really wanted to do was just give you a taste of what it's like being there. You can see most of it in the background going on when we weren't focusing on that activity. Some speeches, some chanting, some songs, things like that. That is not my cup of protest tea. I don't really, want to go there and get in the chants and all that stuff. But I have appreciated in my nascent activist career, the antique activist wannabe, appreciated the chance to get out and meet some of these people and participate in some of the activities. So that's what Tuesdays with Tillis is all about. I don't know if I'll be there every Tuesday, probably not, but I'll be there again at some point. Drag my camera out. Here's an example of a show that was done in the field, and I'm not going to do that very often because it was a lot of work. The reason we're finishing this up on Wednesday and didn't put it online yesterday on Tuesday was it took a lot of editing to get all that stuff prepared, and there was a little technical difficulty in getting it out of the editing computer and ready to play back. So all that got finished by about 11:30, and I wasn't going to sit here and do a show after having been up all day and be real tired. So I just put it on standby, and I'm doing the show now. I won't do that a lot. It's too much work. I like to sit here in the studio, in the bonus room above the garage, the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, and bring people in on Skype or have them sit in the chair. Yep, nobody's sitting in the chair right now, and just have a good conversation. But sometimes it's fun to get out in the field and do that. Don't invite me to your thing. I mean, you can invite me to your thing, but don't expect me to bring cameras and make a TV production out of it. That's too much work. I'm too lazy. Anything else I want to talk about? One thing I'll tack on. It's got nothing to do with, well, a little bit to do with politics, but not really. News and Observer has changed their comics lineup. I think I've talked about how much I like reading the comics. It's my dessert at the end of plowing through as many articles as I've got time to actually read, and looking at a lot of headlines and reading a few articles, and then get to the comics, and like most of them. The News and Observer has announced that they are dropping Mallard Fillmore, which is a conservative leaning political commentary comic. They added that a few years ago, probably more than a few years ago. But I remember what they said when they added it. And they added another one called Candorville, which is a kind of left-leaning, and they put them one on top of the other. And they added them to balance each other. One kind of left, one Mallard Fillmore is very much right-wing. They're not dropping Candorville. They're just dropping Mallard Fillmore. I'm not sure. If you recall, they dropped Wiley Miller's non sequitur after he, let's see, have I pushed the explicit button here on this episode yet? No, I haven't. So I'll stay polite. He did the F off Trump panel in one of his Sunday comics. So they dropped him. And dropping Mallard Fillmore has got nothing to do with that. They just made that change as well. They've also dropped Doonesbury. Now, Doonesbury, Gary Trudeau's comic, that's been running forever and ever. He doesn't do new ones during the week. He does a new one on the weekends. It's run in the editorial page and not in the regular comics section. And they're dropping that entirely too. And I remember when they brought in Mallard Fillmore, people would say, well, why isn't that on the editorial page? Why isn't it counterpointing Doonesbury as an editorial? And their comment at the time was, it's not the same caliber. Yeah, Doonesbury is typically left-wing, left-leaning. Mallard Fillmore's right-leaning. But Mallard Fillmore, their estimation and mine was that it was not nowhere near in the caliber of Doonesbury. Not historically and not even just critically. Your opinion may vary, and I got a feeling anyone's opinion will vary based on their politics. You could say Mallard Fillmore's way better than Doonesbury. What are you talking about? There's no winning that argument one way or the other. So the two comics that they added Sherman's Lagoon and something else to replace Non Sequitur. They're both lame. I've seen Sherman's Lagoon before. News and Observer may have run it before. I don't know. I'm not sure where I ran into it. And they may have run it before and dropped it. They're non-political. People argue about the comics too. Should the comics have all of this politics stuff? Isn't the comics just supposed to be fun? Kind of bland, boring fun. I think there's room for both in the comics, and I really enjoy it. I read Blondie, a bunch of others that are not sharp-edged, but I like the sharp-edged ones better. The Pearls Before Swine. I like those better, but I still do some of the ones that have no edge to them at all. They're just people pointing out the foibles of people. If you miss those comics or want to see some others, let's see. I figured out how to do this. No, I haven't. I'm trying to open up a website from my. Oh, there we go. From my links, there's this website called Go Comics, and they have a lot of the comics that I like to read. Comics that have disappeared from the newspaper. There are way more comics around than show up in the News and Observer. Dozens and dozens more, and some of them are pretty good. They just haven't shown up in the News and Observer. So you can go to a site called Go Comics and get, I think that's where Doonesbury ends up. Yeah, Doonesbury, Non Sequitur is still there, and lots of others. On the other hand, Mallard Fillmore is in something called Comics Kingdom. Of course, there's not, we have competition here in America. There's not just one site to go to. So Mallard Fillmore, you don't even have to pay any money to go see these. But if you want to pay a little bit of money, at least with Go Comics for $20 a year, they will let you curate your own comics page and put all the comics you want to see on one web page so that you can go through them without having to type in which one it is and keep hunting through their directory. So $20 a month? No, $20 a month would be way too much. $20 a year. And you can skip all the ads and curate your own comics at Go Comics, and probably, and I didn't look, Comics Kingdom probably has something like that. I don't know. Didn't dig into it. Well, they do have membership, so probably you can buy prints. So if you're like me, and like the comics, it's a place to go to get the ones that have disappeared. And the comic writers and artists have to eat, have to live, have to have shelter, drive cars, things like that. They need to make some money. And they probably don't make very much off of just having their comic in the online sites, even with some ads there. They really make their money getting them in the newspapers. And poor Wiley Miller, he's been kicked out of most newspapers. So, but Go Comics is keeping him around. And in fact, there's an interesting debate. You can read comments on the comics. And of course, when he went through his trouble with is Go F You Trump. Lots of comments, pro and con. And they show up on those websites as well. So they need to make some money. Maybe I will subscribe to probably Go Comics, because no, I'm not going to help out. Not going to go help out Mallard Fillmore and his artist. I guess that's her latest. You won't be seeing it in the News and Observer. So AOC, that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's call for taxpayers to subsidize those who are unwilling to work, has been an inspiration to our next guest. Mallard Fillmore is, I guess, a television news host or anchor or something, I guess. They don't make a big deal out of that. AOC has been an inspiration to our next guest, and the guest is wearing a T-shirt that says unwilling to work. Says, oh, it's not just me, Mallard. She's a goddess to the entire work-adverse community. Gives you a taste of what Mallard Fillmore is all about. All right, I'm going to go away. This is the Triangle Talk Show. It has been, where's my button? Episode 51, Politics, February 27th, 2019, on Wednesday, because I couldn't get all this done in one day. But if it's Tuesday, it is time for Tuesdays with Tillis, a group of protesters who will stand out, rain or shine, I'm sure, cold, hot, whatever. 310 New Bern Avenue is the federal courthouse, the federal building in Raleigh, federal building and federal courthouse. And you can join them on the sidewalk. Stay on the street side of the sidewalk. You have to leave a little path, one sidewalk square deep, for pedestrians. There's a bunch of police there, always there guarding the courthouse. And I asked them, I'm a baby media here, I'm podcaster. Where can I set things up that I won't get in trouble? And they said, well, we just need to leave this corridor available for pedestrians. You can go pretty much anywhere else. Can't go on the little plaza that's right in front of the doors either. Got to stay on the far side of the sidewalk. But I had my equipment set up on a bench, stone bench, that was on that plaza side. And I said, do I need to move that? And they said, no, you're okay. Just keep an eye on it. It may disappear. It didn't disappear. I got all my stuff. All right. Not sure when the next show is going to be. There'll be another show sometime sooner or later. But for now, see ya. Bye. Over and out.